I still remember the moment I said yes, not because I was ready, not because I had everything in place, but because the opportunity came and I knew I couldn't say no. At that moment, I was still a therapist. Same treatment room, same team, same environment. The only difference was now I was about to stand at the front of the room and teach. Welcome back to I'm No Rookie. This is the podcast for those of you who have years of experience, but you know you're ready for something more. And today's episode is a personal one. I want to talk about what my 15 plus years of teaching has actually taught me. Not the polished version, not the version you would put on a CV, the real version. Because if you're thinking about stepping into education or even just doing something different, this will help you see what it really looks like. So let me take you back to 2010. That's when I officially stepped into education. Now, if I'm honest, I had already been educated in small ways. As therapists, we all do. We explain treatments, we guide clients, we support others. But this was different. This was the title trainer. At the time, I had just completed my undergraduate degree. I was still very hands-on, still very much in my therapist role. But behind the scenes, I had been studying quietly. Back then, we were not posting everything online. You didn't announce every qualification, you just did the work. I had won Student of the Year before and had access to training opportunities. I kept going back, building up my knowledge, doing qualifications, and not really telling anyone. Then one day I was spotted. The organization I worked for realized what I had been doing behind the scenes. And when their trainer left, they approached me. They offered me the role. And here's the part I want you to really hear. I did not have a teaching qualification, but I said yes because I believed in what I already knew. Now, what people don't talk about is what happens after that. When you move from therapist to trainer in the same organization, it's not always smooth. There is a comparison, there is judgment, and there are people wondering why you and not them. And I felt that. But at the same time, I was excited because I knew my subject, I knew how to connect with people, and I knew how to communicate. Then I stepped into my first teaching session, and that's when everything shifted. Because I realized something very quickly. Knowing something and teaching something are two completely different skills. Standing there, I thought, okay, now I need to help people actually understand this. And as someone who's dyslexic, I already knew one thing. Talking at people is not enough. So I started changing how I taught. I use storytelling, I use real examples, and I thought about how to make things make sense, not just sound good. And then came another moment. Someone asked me a question I didn't know the answer to. The moment could have knocked me back or knocked my confidence massively, but instead, it taught me something. I'm not meant to know everything. I'm meant to keep learning. Over the next few years, I developed. I completed my level 3, then my level 4, and then my assessor's qualification. I moved from being in store to becoming an international trainer, traveling, teaching in 5-star hotels, working with therapists across different countries. And every experience stretched me, not just in knowledge, but in confidence. Then I stepped into something completely different. I started social media design school, and this is where I pushed myself again. Every Sunday, I would go online and teach something new. I called it Social Media Sunday School. Now, let me be honest, I did not always feel confident showing up online, but I kept showing up anyway. And that consistency changed me because teaching online made me realize something. It's not just about what you know, it's about how you structure it, how you explain it, and how you help someone take action. That skill stays with you. The biggest shift for me was this. Teaching is not about being the expert in the room. It's about being the person who helps others understand. And once I understood that, everything changed. My confidence grew, my delivery improved, and I stopped putting pressure on myself to be perfect. If you're thinking about stepping into teaching, I want you to take this with you. You already have knowledge, you already have experience, but the real work is learning how to communicate it in a way that makes sense to someone else. Start small, share what you know, explain things to others, practice speaking, practice breaking things down. That is how you build confidence, not by waiting, but by doing. And this is exactly one of the reasons I created Developing Educators Academy, because I remember what it felt like to step into teaching without fully understanding how education works, the structure, the student-centered approach, the assessment side. That is what builds real confidence. So if you ever thought, I would love to teach, but I do not know where to start, that is exactly what we support you with. So in this episode, I have shared how my journey into teaching did not start with a perfect plan. It started with just saying yes. I have shared how teaching challenged my confidence, stretched me, and forced me to grow. And how over time I realized that teaching is not about having all the answers. It's about helping others find theirs. If there's one thing you take away from this episode, you do not need to feel fully ready to start. You just need to be willing to grow into the role. If this episode resonated with you, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you know someone who has been thinking about stepping into teaching, share this episode with them. You never know, it might be the push that they need. And if you have a moment, leave a review. It really helps more people to find the podcast. And remember, you're no rookie in the game of life. It's just time to take action.